the Football Pod on Off the Ball in partnership with AIB, proud sponsors of the Football, Hurling and Camogie All-Ireland Club Championships. Hashtag the toughest.
How are you all doing? It is episode 35 of the Football Pod with Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue. We are recording on a bank holiday Monday. It's early here. Monday the 7th of August, just after 9 a.m. Paddy Andrews.
It's a bit too early.
How are you? How are you doing, fella?
I would have liked this later in the day, I have to say. It's a bit much. It's a bit spicy for a bank holiday Monday. My voice still isn't back yet after a week. No, I do accept that. It is commitment to the pod, but we could have done this at 5 o'clock this evening.
I don't know. You're digging me out. I'm getting away after the long summer, and it's a hurling week in Clare this week, so I'm getting away for 3 or 4 nights. So,
end for you, T. End for your travel plans.
Gotta get away, man. You couldn't get away during the championship.
It was a quiet bank holiday this one anyway, wasn't it?
Yes.
After last week. Actually, there wasn't a peep about the bank holiday this week.
The weather was so cat.
Yeah, weather's been a disgrace in Dublin.
Yeah.
Not
it
good
has
for
been
football,
quiet.
the old wind.
How's the week been, Paddy?
It was a good week, but geez, I was tired, I have to say. So we have to, the win on Sunday for the Dubs. So Sunday and Monday were heavy going, I have to say. So Tuesday and Wednesday were not great. Thursday started getting some semblance of normality back. Friday and Saturday was alright, but then I was at United yesterday in the Lansdowne Road, in the Viva.
United,
back to
United C team.
Yeah, it's the United Duds. What an absolute catastrophe that was. But a good day out again, so hence why the voice is still a little bit shaky today. But sure, we 3 days before the All-Ireland last weekend as well. It was a heavy weekend. Dublin-Kerry went full showbiz last week, didn't it? 3 or 4 days before.
You boys made the most of it, I have to say.
Did we? What?
Yeah, I never got the chance to ask yous on Sunday. We did that podcast live from Croke Park on Sunday, and fair play to you both. It was brilliant stuff. Got a great reaction. How was up for the match on Saturday?
It's some show. What a show it is.
It must have been a bit of crack, was it? I was getting a text.
Very, very handy, low key. Well run, great green room.
Very good green room.
And then into town after.
Absolute
Des
showbiz.
and Jackie, bang on.
Yeah, I'd say so.
There's Jackie on top of the pop still, yeah.
They were now legends, in fairness to them. And
Oh,
then
yeah. I went home after. I was shook from Thursday and Friday, and I need to get my act together for Sunday. And Jimmy, Darryl Sullivan, O'Mahony, Michael McCauley, you guys were going big on Saturday night, and I was like, no, can't do it. Cannot do it. Couldn't face it.
But you were working Sunday. You know, the lads are all right. I met James in Croke Park
I did another
3
10
times.
gigs. I did another 10 gigs on Sunday.
I met James in Croke Park 3 times. Before the game, pint in his hand. After the game, pint in his hand. We had to get our way into the press box. I had to stop him bringing a pint into the press box. So.
He was going to be thrown out of Croke Park.
Making the most of not working for it. I was absolutely delighted with life. But in the premium as well, you can actually drink out of a glass. I was like, that is the best thing about being here. No plastic glass, shite. Straight
Where
on
were you?
Nice glass pint again.
Just above the Arcola, were you?
You were premium.
I got lovely AIB tickets.
AIB,
Hashtag
the
toughest
toughest.
for more.
Well deserved.
The toughest for more tickets.
And
you had a few
I
points
got a
there.
lovely spot.
Yeah.
So we might come back to the week in Kerry in a minute, right? Paddy, I was very proud of one thing. Regardless of whether you were out Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, or even last night, there was no drunken tweets from you after midnight.
Phone died.
Never ever drink and tweet. That is, we all knew that beforehand, but you probably know it even more after this week. Wowzers. It's one way to get trending, though, I have to say.
I was telling you, I had fear thinking about Paul Flynn's fear. It was
Flitter's alright. No, Flitter would be alright.
no, it would be perfect, but Jesus. Yeah,
was
whatever
ballsy.
you put up, you don't want that much of a reaction to it.
Well, 4 million. How many views, Tommy?
The both tweets got 4 million, and I'll go tweet.
4 million.
I'll go through the tweet in a
Good
second.
content.
But this, of all the 100,000 quote tweets or comments, this is my favourite. And I don't know if this is original, but this one's from at SullyGuy07, so credit to you if it is. 2 p.m. in the Boar's Head. Jesus, Clifford had an off day. 6 p.m. in Smithfield. Nick Fitz had him in his pocket. 12:37 a.m. having a piss in Cassidy's. He was smoked.
It's probably not too far off the timeline. Yeah. Good tweet. That's a good tweet. Yeah. No, it was. I think the saying he got smoked is the pretty inflammatory now. We were saying like players do talk like that. Like we were saying, "Go, I smoked him," like in a nearly tongue-in-cheek way. But I think to be fair to Flinner, right, that's his opinion on it. I don't necessarily agree with it. I have to say, I thought Clifford had a grand game. Like if you look at it from two perspectives, right, Clifford scores 2 points from play, creates 1-2. And then another 4 or 5 scoring opportunities for himself. At the other end of the pitch, Collie Basquel for Dublin scores 2 points from play, creates the goal, and has a massive impact on the game. And you can kind of say, from a Dublin perspective, and for Collie Basquel going, brilliant game. What a performance by him. Real coming of age thing. So if you look at objectively and the numbers, himself and Clifford, both corner forwards, they have the same sort of input on the game. But the reality is, a bit of context, Collie Basquel is like breaking into the Dublin team. He's been around the squad. He's a really good player. We know that. And he's at a different level to what Clifford is. Clifford is the best forward in the game, 100%. Not up for debate. At 24, he's already probably built himself into like legitimately being considered as one of the best players of all time. And he's another 7 or 8 years of this. So he's held to a different standard. And he himself would hold himself to a different standard. And the reality is, we spoke for 2 weeks in the lead up to this game and loads of different tactics and the depth and kickouts and all this good stuff. You could simplify it and say if Clifford gets hot, that could win Kerry the game. If he's off and Fitzy does a job, Dublin are going to win the game. And that is the long and the short of it. That's what it came down to. So I think Clifford had a grand game, but the biggest thing that let him down and why people are saying he didn't have his best game, and he didn't, is he wasn't clinical, which is so rare for him. To miss 4 or 5 opportunities, that it can't simplify that if he scores them, Kerry are going to win that match. That is the reality, and that's the role he has, the responsibility. He's the best player in the game. He's Kerry's best player, obviously. Exceptional leader for them, and he took responsibility, but he didn't have a good game when it mattered most. And that is, if Flinner makes that point, maybe it's a bit tongue-in-cheek how he does it, but that's the reality of it. That's Flinner's opinion, and I think we all agree. And I'll tell you one thing, David Clifford will agree with this. It wasn't his best game, and unfortunately he's that important to Kerry. If he's off, I don't say it's costing the game, but it's played a massive role in them not winning it. But I think there's massive credit to Fitzy for what he did, and there's definitely times Clifford got the better of Fitzy at different stages in those games, but we spoke about it right after the game, the relentlessness, the focus, the diligence of Fitzy just to be at Clifford all the time. He's forcing him to take bad shots, and he's in his head, and that is the reality of it. Deserve massive credit, and we said it before the game as well. It's not just Fitzsimons doing it. Like Dublin, the work rate all over the pitch, the middle third, the organisation, and the tackling from their forwards, it keeps Clifford on the edge of the game as much as they can. Like he only touches the ball probably twice in the first 20 minutes.
Watching
it live,
Paddy,
score.
I was thinking a lot about the manner in which Dublin closed off that channel that Clifford wanted the ball in. And it was different players all the time. It was Fenton at one stage, Merchant, Kenny was there, Howard was there at another time. We were wondering all week, who's going to be the Keane O'Sullivan, who's going to play that role. But it was a different Dublin player in every play.
But Tommy, it had to be like that. And we said this, if Clifford gets the ball unopposed all the time, forget about it. Yeah, he might miss a couple, but he's got to get there eventually. And that's what Dublin did. And Fitzsimons is massive credit, but also the whole organisation around the Dublin team and the work rate, it kept them to a minimum. And then a little bit, if you're just hope, is he a little bit off? And that's where Fitzy comes in, where he's just at him all the time. And Clifford, he snatches at a couple of shots, which is so unlike him. That's because he's under pressure from Fitzsimons. And then there's also the mental side of it. And this is a thing I would say Clifford would look back on and learn from. He does start forcing things in that second half because he feels the pressures on him, because he's on the edge of the game. And that we've been in that situation, Jimmy, before, where you're kind of going, there's 30 minutes gone, there's 40 minutes gone, there's 50 minutes gone, and you're not lighting it up. And you think, geez, I need possession, I need to do something here. And there's times, definitely two of those shots in the second half, I think, there, was that really on? Even though it's Clifford and he could score it, it's a really low percentage shot because you can see the pressure's getting to him. That's the nature of it. He's the leader of that team, and it's coming down the stretch in the All-Ireland final, and that's part of being the best player, to be able to deal with that. And I think Kerry will look back on it. I think he'll look back and go, it wasn't his best day, and that's where he wasn't smoked. I don't agree with Flinner on that, and he'd probably take that back himself. But I don't think
he didn't.
Maybe Flinner's
he might have rolled back a little bit.
He can be ignorant himself as well at times, but the premise of it wasn't far off the truth. Maybe the language is a little bit different. I thought the reaction now, and this is fucking Twitter again, was a bit over it. Like I say, 4 million bloody views on this. This is the latest scandal. I was surprised, I have to say. Of course people care.
On both
but the
sides.
Reaction of
great tweet
going after Flinner like this is like classless and sour grapes. Get the
I
if
set up
people
2
don't
new profiles just to reply to it.
you have 50 bots set up, Jimmy. If people don't agree with your
1999,
like this, if people don't agree with your opinion, it does not make it doesn't give you entitlement to just go, what a disgrace that human being is. How dare he? Like, get fucking over yourself. It's his opinion on something. I would say Flinner, as one of the best players this century, is more than entitled to give his opinion on it. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but I'm not going to swing from the rooftops for 3 days on Twitter pissing and moaning about it. But that's just the nature of Twitter. But look, Jimmy, come on, what's the Kerry perspective? Jimmy, you have a bit of balance here now. Come on.
No, I have been in that situation that Flynn was in. It's like after a few pints, you get so loose and you start talking absolute tripe to your own crowd. Do you know what I mean? And everyone in your camp is brilliant, and everyone else is the enemy. Do you know? It's just the way it is. Like that's how players talk and ex-players talk. But I suppose once you're on Twitter, it's a dangerous territory. But people like Clifford, even if you look at Ronaldo and Messi in the soccer, right? They play a bad game. Next thing, he's terrible. You know what I mean? That's just how a reaction. When you're at that level, when you're so high and you get so much praise, there are going to be times when you get the way more criticism than you deserve as a result. It's just the way we are as supporters. And
but it's the standards he set himself, Jimmy, isn't it? He's so good. His standards are so high. When there's a little drop, like I say, compared to Pascal, it's kind of the same output from both of them, but he's on a completely different plane to that.
It is.
People expect so much more from him. Like,
but when you're criticised, you don't get criticised fairly either. You get criticised to a whole new level, and that's just what happened. But I mean, and I said this about Sean Kelly, I think, when at the time of the kick, like Clifford will deal with this no problem. Do you know what I mean? He's such a top fella, top bloke, top player. He'll dust himself down, take a bit of a hit here, and he'll come back even better. I have no doubt.
What do you think you learn from? What do you think you learn from Sunday?
He'll learn what Paddy said. I think he just forced a few shots. Sometimes in those situations, just make something happen, do a 1-2 and slip it to a fella to chip an easy point. He really did take on maybe a lot of responsibility in the build up to the game. It was all about him, and it's so easy to fall into that trap. Maybe then again there was 2 shots he took that were on for him that just tailed wide, and I remember thinking he put his hands on his head, and it was like, fuck it, what is going on? Why did they go wide? So I mean, it's just one of those days. There's no big struggle. But what I will say,
can I ask you about putting the hand on?
Yeah.
Just putting the hand on the head, like one of the biggest things for me, I felt was you're playing Dublin in Croke Park, it's sold out. The energy the Dublin fans got from every David Clifford miss was multiplied as well. Like, is that something you learn, that you've got to be even more effective? Because I know if he gets a score there, it's worth 2 points to Kerry.
Well, he's not thinking. He's just thinking, let's get a score. How are we going to get a score here? Realistically, all year it's been, I'm going to create something and I'm going to pull the trigger. So, his shot selection was off, absolutely. His execution was a bit off. One day of the year, that's just the way it is. He's going to have to grow from it, and he will. And there's no fear of him. But what I would say about his development as well, right? In this off season, he nearly has to not think about himself. Obviously, there's things he can improve on, but he's so top level. He needs to almost think about bringing along 2 or 3 new fellas now into his little cohort. You got himself, Paddy, Shawnee, right? But they probably need another one or two.
I don't think
young
that's
fellas
just
coming in.
him, Jimmy. I think that's maybe a little bit unfair on him. He's a massive leader. He's the captain of the team, but I think that's the coaches as well. Like
It is.
I think it's got to a stage where Cliff, even though he's only 24, and you could see this manifested last Sunday. He's taken on too much, and in a way that's admirable because he's an unbelievable leader and he takes that responsibility. You could see it.
But I
He's
disagree.
Give me
He
the
can't
ball.
have taken on too much just because he kicked a couple of wides the last day. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's putting massive pressure on one player.
But there was
I think my biggest learning from him.
build up for him, but I still wouldn't change much about what he does. If anything, the only thing
Can you
he
double
needs
down
is a bit
on
more
what you were?
support.
Can you just explain what you were saying there about this winter for him? Because you would have entered an attacking unit that was possibly coming towards the end, but we're still there for a long time. And Gooch, Donaghy, Darren, Declan, they were all still there when you were breaking through. Like, how can he transition in those lads that are on the fringes that obviously have talent but haven't shown it yet at intercounty level?
Well, the team that I broke into was different because even somebody Donaghy would have nearly win a ball and put it into your tummy for a tap over. Do you know what I mean? Like that was kind of the way that group worked. But I think that someone young needs to be added to that unit as a forward unit to kind of improve the boys and let them mould him to do what they want him to do. So it might be a ball winner. It might be someone who just runs off Cliffy's shoulder every so often, takes a bit of space off him. But they need to get someone into that forward unit that they trust and they can bring along. Because at the moment you're looking at the panel and you're thinking there's no one of that level maybe to help them. So I think that's one thing that where they can all work this winter to get a relationship with one or two fellas to really improve that forward line. And I think that will happen.
Isn't that? I think that's what Kerry needs. I mean, we've been saying it all year that there's the reliance on Clifford is a bit too much. That you need other players need to come to the fore and clip those scores. And reality is, Geeney's probably a little bit older now. Is he going to be the man to do that? Stephen O'Brien, the same story. That's just the nature of it. We need these guys to come through and support the likes of Clifford and Sean O'Shea and take some of that burden off him, because look, the nature is he's still going to be the best player in the country for the next 5 years, I'd say.
Can I ask you a question on that, Paddy?
Yeah.
I just thought I felt it in the build up to the game, and afterwards you got the sense of it. The Dublin players, there was so much emotion in their speeches afterwards. It's so hard to read into everything that was in it, but there was a lot of players sticking up for what Dessie Farrell did for them over the last couple of years. You could see that. There was players talking about the pride of getting James McCarthy up the steps. But there was also a sense that some of them felt maybe a little bit disrespected, that there was a young lad from Kerry with one All-Ireland being hailed as possibly the greatest we'd ever seen. Until you drilled into it and you realised that Dessie Farrell pulled an absolute masterstroke the week of the All-Ireland final. Dessie Farrell says David Clifford is probably the greatest footballer he has ever seen at his Sunday's All-Ireland final. So when the Dublin players are reacting, there was some of them saying in the game afterwards, they were talking about their own manager saying it and putting it. Sometimes that motivation can come from.
I would say that would be relatively planned. Yeah,
a well-planted story. Would you say so? Yeah.
Well, I think, look, the reality for Dublin and why it meant so much as well is that they'd lost for the last 2 years. This is a group of players.
The famine, the great famine, yes.
In Fenton's example, he hadn't lost the championship match ever. So we're the top of the game, All-Stars, Player of the Years, winning All-Irelands year on year on year, and that's taken away from you then. Not just 1 year, but 2 years. And then the third year, you're in Division 2 and you're being challenged. And we've all played sport, lads. You can create chips on your shoulder and that edge and that hunger from anything. You know, Michael Jordan, I took that personally. You know, so that's just all the sports science, that edge of being, even creating this bit of disrespect. Of course, that gives motivation to guys as well. I don't think it's sustainable long term for 3-4 years, but for this season, I said it all along. And Jimmy, you were laughing at me that Dublin would win this All-Ireland. Even though at times they were brutal in Division 2, when the lads came back, the whole sense of just, they are going by hook or by crook, they're going to win this thing. And last Sunday was I thought, the perfect example of it. That Dublin weren't great. Kerry, I don't think it was quality-wise the best game, but it was intense. Jesus Christ. But I just got the sense they're going to pull this out of the bag somehow because of that type of thing. Yeah, 2 years of hurt. I get it. Looking from the outside, going, Jesus, teams haven't won the All-Ireland in decades. But for those Dublin players, without a doubt, that was a big sense of motivation. And yeah, maybe if people are saying Clifford's brilliant. Yeah, maybe players did use that. Whatever you can to find an edge around things, you'll use it. And that, you see the reaction from the Dublin players, from Dublin supporters, that was a massive, massive win. It was a build-up of basically 2.5 years of disappointments and loads of different stuff.
There was, I think it was Kieran Whelan who first mentioned it in the build-up, and Desi Farrell spoke about it afterwards. James McCarthy spoke about it afterwards too, that one of the key moments in the lads coming back and all of this happening was James McCarthy's wedding last December.
It's a good wedding.
You weren't at the top table, but I'm sure you were in the mix of some of those conversations, were you?
Vaguely remember some of these, in Lutters Town.
And was there a feeling that night that there was something happening?
Look, it was kind of Christmas time and everyone's having a few beers, and the lads had obviously been beaten again that summer, and we've a wedding next Friday as well with Dean Rock. It's one of the times where everyone's back together again. So naturally, football dominates the conversations. And maybe, I wasn't sitting there with Desi Farrell saying do this, that, or the other, but I'm sure those conversations were happening in one of the side rooms around the wedding about 3 o'clock in the morning. But I think the biggest thing, and Desi Farrell said it, there was always the lads everyone cares about it. Everyone cares about it, and for Mano and for Jack and for Clucker, for the different reasons at different times, that I actually don't want to do this anymore. I can't do it. I'm doing whatever, personal life, professional life, whatever it was. But there was never a sense of a split that they've fallen out with Desi or they're falling out with the players. It was just, I can't really do this anymore. We had it during our own time. We'd Ronnie O'Carroll left. Jack's retired about 4 fucking times and he's come back. This players, there's so much that goes into it, and there has to be so much that goes into it to win the thing. If you're not all in on it, you actually really shouldn't be there. And that the lads at different stages couldn't do that. And whenever it came to this season, and I tell you, 100%, seeing Kerry win the All-Ireland last year, that would have been a big motivation in it. The lads going, we're still in position to do something about this. I'm going to go back and give the lads a dig out. And when that happened, and you seen the two boys going back, and then Stephen coming back in February or March, I was just like, and I'm sure within the camp, it was like, we're going to win this thing. Because they're that good. And we see the quality. We look at the game last Sunday. Cluxton was exceptional. Mannion gets man of the match. McCaffrey comes on in all the big games. He comes on and makes a massive hit. That's the quality of players. That's the surprising thing for me, is those guys came back and reached those levels. I was wary of, off the pitch they'd be amazing. But could they reach the height of 5 or 6 years ago when they were all the top players in the game? And they did.
It's not just that, Paddy. They reached it in the All-Ireland final.
But that's all the biggest games, Tommy. And that was the worry. He was going, Cluxton's 42. Going, yeah, he's brilliant around the dressing room, but is he going to be able to get to those levels again? And Mannion, if for 2 or 3 years, he was probably the best forward in the game, himself, Con and Clifford. But then he's been away. You're going to see. And Jack hadn't kicked the ball in 3 years. You're going, he's not going to be as fast. He's not going to be able to have the impact that he had in 16, 17, 18. And all three of them at big moments throughout the championship and in the final on the biggest day came up trumps. And that was a testament to how good these players are. But it was that. If those guys don't come back, I don't think Dublin win the All-Ireland. That's the reality. I think despite all the other stuff, if they're not there, I think it's a big ask for Dublin to win that All-Ireland. But once they were, and you could see the level they were at, I said it, slam dunk, Dublin were going to win that thing.
You did say it. If buts and maybe, James.
It's my only positive prediction all season. Cork are the team to watch in 2024. But no, that's why it was emotional for those players and for the Dublin supporters, and
just for the players.
Out in everyone around it was out in the city. We were out on Sunday night. We were out on Monday. It was. People are talking about this in Dublin as big a win as 2011.
Oh, that's something.
The only thing that's how big it is. When you think about the analysis of the game and everything, it's very much. It proves how much of on a knife point the whole thing is.
Oh yeah.
Like Kerry are coming in for criticism now. deservedly so after a loss or whatever, you're always going to get that. And Dublin are the bee's knees. But like it came down to probably one turnover or one wide.
It was level 3 minutes at entry time.
Yeah, like
it was level.
It's just on a knife point, and that's how close you are to going back to back. You're legendary for a couple of weeks, or you think you are anyway, or you're nothing, and it's back to square one. Do you know? So it's interesting, but it's so rootless.
I watched the game back, and I had
a
couple of notes after watching it back because you have such a different perspective on it. And that podcast we recorded in Croke Park, lads, fair play to you. It was brilliant. Like it was all emotion though. Like I don't think any of us had processed the match by that stage.
No.
And like
Timmy was on head point.
it was great.
Timmy was swaying in his seat. Like I was like,
most
Timmy, keep it together, man. How many listens do we get? 1 million.
Over 60,000 people listen to or watch that podcast. So thanks very
much.
Drive
back to Kerry, beautiful.
Thanks very much, and that's without any Kerry fans listening. So thanks very much to everyone, as always, for listening to the podcast.
60,000, baby.
We really appreciate it. So, some thoughts after watching the game back. That was one of Dublin's best final performances of their 11 All-Ireland finals since 2011. Not their best, but well up there for a couple of reasons, right? I felt Dublin were the aggressors in that game. They nailed Kerry every single time they could, and they left something on them. Gough allowed that game to be played like that. I thought Gough had a good game, but Dublin set the terms of engagement.
Jimmy, what are your thoughts on Gough after last Sunday?
I thought he had a good game. The only debatable one was the free he overturned. Well, the red card. The two red cards in isolation. Costello and James McCarthy. They could have both got the run on a different day. And the free that he overturned for Clifford and Fitzsimons.
Like, I actually thought that was the right call, though.
I do
agree.
Probably was.
McCarthy,
you always say a ref never changes
his mind. Yeah. But
so
he does previous
throws hands in the air and suddenly it's overturned. But the thing is that Kerry actually lose that ball. So from Kerry having possession in there
and a score,
even if he didn't give the free, Kerry have the possession in there. And now it's a hot ball, we lose it, and it's gone over the bar to the other side. That was probably a turning point as well. But I thought he had a good game. Who booed him? Was it the Dubs that booed him? Why are the Dubs going?
If the refs go up, everyone's booing them. That's just
If Paddy Clifford got their microphone in the fucking
I wanted a word with Paddy after the match just to see. Paddy, give Gough 30 seconds there.
A few other quick ones. Kerry's most hurtful spell and their poorest three misses in this game happened in the 57th, 58th and 61st minutes. David Clifford had a wide from about 25 yards on his right foot. Adrian Spillane just off the bench, bursting through on goal. He bounces the ball on the wet grass and he loses it. And Tom Sullivan gets the ball in the perfect spot in his left. I know it's not the outside of his left, but he's telegraphed what he's doing. And he still gets a shot away, but he skies it.
Well, hold on.
It was in the midst of a spell where Dublin outscored them 7 points to 2. And the next score for Dublin, Brian Fenton saunters up the field in his own space and puts the ball over the bar.
Whatever with Kerry, Spillane loses that ball because Owen Merchant buries him. Owen Merchant is 3 foot tall and he wins that hit.
He bounces at Paddy though.
I don't care. He loses the ball because Merch is in him.
Okay.
Tom Sullivan misses because Niall Scully is all over him. And yet, I'd still expect Tom Sullivan to score it. But that is what Dublin were doing all day. It was dogged like. And this is what people, and back to the Clifford Fitzsimons, and Clifford misses, it's because Fitzy's all over him. And it's just, that is the margins, and that was the way the game was played. It wasn't the highest quality, and Kerry were brilliant at this at times as well, absolutely, in terms of their work rate, and it was a scrappy game. But that, Timmy, you said it after was it Geaney's line, you're not fighting for the ball, you're fighting for the medal. That was the mentality of both teams. You could just see it. It was so intense. Neither of them will look back and go, that was really high quality. But those moments that Kerry miss, they're forced to because Dublin's work rate. And that's, you have to give credit there. And that's why I thought Fenton was exceptional down the stretch. Because he was the one guy, and Mannion to an extent, where it was like, they're still playing like a normal game. They're still cruising through this match despite absolute chaos going around them. And that's where Fenton down the stretch I thought was exceptional. But there wasn't really many. Paddy Clifford has moments in that third quarter where Kerry are really good.
He was savage.
And you're thinking, he got three from play second half.
3 from play in that period, and that's nearly stood out more because it was so scrappy around. But those big moments, the best players were kind of still cruising. You're just going, Jesus, that is high quality under the highest pressure. Like And ultimately, I think Dublin just had a little bit more of that than Kerry did.
Yeah.
And that's, again, Jimmy, we're talking the finest margins. It's level in injury time. Clifford could kick a score and they got 1 up, and Kerry win the thing. So it was so tight. But that's what you expect between these two teams. And in a game like an All-Ireland final, that's what it comes down to. I just had those little moments. Yeah, Kerry were a little bit off, but they were off because Dublin were putting them off.
I thought that Fenton was absolutely Rolls Royce. I love him as a player. He shows such leadership. He even got the short kick out at the end after Clifford kicks it wide. I think he secures possession for the free that Dean Rock kicks at the end. He gets the ball in the cornerback spot, moves it on to Kilkenny. Eventually, it ends up with McCaffrey, who gets fouled. Is it McCaffrey that gets fouled by Mike Breen for the free?
Don't think so.
Pascal.
Is it McCaffrey?
Pascal?
Pascal. I can't remember.
One of them. But he actually started just by getting a short kick out. Just give it to me. I'll move it. I'll do the right thing.
Composure.
And I thought Howard got 8 kickouts. Like, for a fella to make stuff available for 8 kickouts is serious.
But how did that happen, James? Because Fitzmaurice called that in commentary watching it back. I think 2 kickouts in. Cluxton's looking for Howard here.
Yeah.
How can he recognise it up in the sky? And like, how has that not been stopped? Or is
Kerry would have known that. They would have looked at every single kick out, and Howard is Clucko's go-to guy. Trust him implicitly. It was surprising
his
that
numbers
he got,
weren't outrageous coming up to this stuff, Paddy. Like I think he was one of the most. All right, but he wasn't getting 8 a game. I mean, 8 kickouts.
He was so good, wasn't he?
That is a
Howard was
relationship built
exceptional.
up, and trust.
Yeah. But isn't that, lads? And this is, I'm going to throw this out here, and I'm going big on this. All the player of the year stuff, Clifford, McCarthy and stuff, I wouldn't give it to either of them. Cluxton, for me, is the player of the year. Honest, the biggest game, he was immaculate. And the bottom line, Dublin would not have won the All-Ireland without. That is, and I would be giving it nailed on. McCarthy wasn't great in the final. That's reality. Clifford was below his par in the final. They had brilliant moments, obviously, throughout the season, but consistently, and the bottom line, Dublin won't win this thing without him. And for him to come back, Jimmy, flogging a dead horse, that good stuff you were saying, I just thought he's absolutely exceptional. His final performance was, I can't let him away with that thing. He was bigging up last week, saying there's one more game, he still has the final. Cluxton is player of the year, 100%. Who are you giving it to, Jimmy?
It was Clifford somewhere.
You can't for the final. You can't.
He lit it up in every game. He got 9 against Derry in a tight game.
He didn't light up the final, Jimmy, and he didn't light up the quarter final.
The final, he got his couple of points up the goal.
No, he was good.
He
I'd
played
say
great in
that.
the final. Quarter final, he did an outrageous pass. He's created those moments all through the season.
I totally agree with that. He is exceptional, but
and can I ask you a question? Actually,
bottom line,
yeah, I know where you're coming from, but who actually votes for player of the year?
This is the
Is
crux.
it the players?
The media
players,
put
it's
forward
Clifford.
3. I do, and this is an interesting one. The media put forward 3, who I will imagine will be Clifford, McCarthy, and Cluxton, and then it's the players. Or Fenton maybe. Fenton maybe instead of McCarthy.
Dublin's best player.
Are you
every
overlooking?
day.
Are you overlooking Connie Pascal?
He could potentially be in there.
Second top scorer from play. Unbelievable impact.
Very
in
quiet
the
semi-final.
Very quiet
semi-final.
Big impact in the final.
And that can swing it like.
But everyone's had one down game. It's just natural. You're not going to be brilliant every
I don't
day.
think Cluxton has.
He has. We just don't notice it in goals because they're doing fuck all for most of the game.
Who would say the 5 best players?
Cluxton had the best.
5
final.
best players: Cluxton, Clifford, obviously, Fenton. I put Shane McGuigan from Derry.
Yeah,
He was not going to get it, but I put him in there for what he did with Derry, and I'd put James McCarthy in. Yeah, even though not his best final.
Probably take McGuigan.
I say Bradley. Like.
Oh, lads, that is.
I thought Bradley comes out with some big ones, but I do not agree with that. Like,
Bradley had a bad week.
Was Philly McMahon backing him up? Or was Philly McMahon disagreeing with him?
I couldn't tell what Philly was saying. I think Philly was disagreeing and agreeing at the same time. Pat Spillane was definitely backing him up.
Pat Spillane was backing up Bradley.
Was better.
Paddy
Which was
That's
Paddy Small is a great player, but Shane McGuigan different level this year.
Bradley was Shane McGuigan wouldn't get in the Dublin team.
But sorry, what I didn't understand about that conversation was
Where did that even come up?
But they questioned Shane McGuigan's work rate. Like Shane McGuigan's work rate is to the detriment of his own games. Like, Shane McGuigan in the Ulster final is winning 2 of the last 3 kickouts. He's
absolutely
he's backtracking. Like he gets nailed by Kerry 5 or 6 times in the semi-final because he's involved in every single play. Like Shane McGuigan is top
Shane
of the pops.
McGuigan
He
is
said
one
he
of the
can,
best
he can
forwards.
only score on the loop.
Fuck me.
Hey, that's nearly. Do you know what that's like?
There's some
That
big
reminded
calls
me.
being made. Like that's worse than Flitter's call on Clifford.
You know what?
That,
That's worse.
that deserves to be retweeted. Get 4 million views on Bradley saying McGuigan wouldn't get in the
His
Dublin
own
team.
county as well, like.
That's
That
a bit
reminds me of.
reckless.
That reminds me of the 2-trick pony comment.
What was the
And
two-trick phone?
Wasn't that Martin McHugh? For some reason,
Martin
I thought
McHugh
that
was saying
that had
Gooch wasn't
something to do
good,
with you, James. No,
No, not to me.
I thought that was something to do with you.
Good, no chance.
Computer said no to that one.
So how did we end up on Bradley and Shane McGuigan, by the way? Oh, sorry, Shane McGuigan, top 5 players in the country. Yeah.
Former Donegal All-Star Martin McHugh has branded Kerry legend Colin Cooper a 2-trick pony and claimed his 24-year-old county teammate James O'Donoghue is a better player. McHugh lauded O'Donoghue,
Take
who was
that.
named
What a statement that is.
man of the match in Kerry's All-Ireland quarter-final win over Galway as one of the
Why
finest players
are
he's
you
ever
have to bring
seen.
this up?
Jimmy, what are your thoughts on
That
that?
must have been.
Are
very
you
difficult to
better
deal
than
with.
Gooch?
I must go train.
Are you better than Gooch?
Wrap this
Look
up.
at this. How much did you pay Martin McHugh for that quote? Talk to me. £1,000.
No,
You're better than the Gooch.
That was said at 12:37 on Twitter as well. I think.
Lads, there's some big calls being made, and that's if that goes out on Twitter, the internet's gonna
Boys,
break. Like.
that's what you need to do to get in Sunday Game. Paul Flynn, Sunday Game. Martin McHugh, Sunday Game. If you want to get from the football pod to up for the match to the Sunday
No
game,
interest in that.
you gotta
GA
throw out some
Golf
of
is the
that.
only place you need to be to. GA Golf
Okay,
and the
I have
football pod.
two very last quick ones, and then we're going to take a break and come back with a few more bits. Paul Mannion is an absolute superstar, and he's made for the big day. He's just been created in a lab somewhere in South Dublin. He kicked 5 points again on Sunday, his biggest tally of the year. 115 now in his 8 All-Ireland final appearances. He had 15 minutes in 2013. He got injured, didn't score. He was working abroad in 2015. He played no part. In 16, he played 80 minutes across both finals, came off in one, came on in the other. 17, he kicks 3 points. 18, he scores a goal. And across 2 finals in 19, he kicks 6 points. He is Dublin's joint second top scorer across their 11 All-Ireland finals. Dean Rock is number 1 with 147, 1 point from play. Bernard Brogan is
Kev
at
Mack,
212.
love that one.
And Paul Mannion have 115. So that's some going, Paddy, isn't it?
Unbelievable. Top of the pops, as we said. He's shown it again and again and again. And we seen him, we were getting glimpses of him with the club scene, with Crokes obviously going very well, winning all other club titles. That's all we were seeing of him. So with him going back into the Dublin fold was... Listen, it probably took him time to get back up to speed. There was performances earlier on in the league, in the National League and in the Championship where it definitely wasn't a Paul Mannion we know. And that was the challenge going, could he get to those heights again? And he's done it again. Never, like the quality has, the mentality has... You can't understate that. It's so important. And look, he just showed it again. Like Paul Mannion is an unbelievable player. I don't think, what else can you say? Like he's proven it again and again and again. And last Sunday was he was along with Fenton, one of those guys where there's chaos going everywhere, and he was just doing the business. And that is the mark of the highest quality.
Do you know he's gone through phases of like being almost an assister, an assist merchant, or kind of a ball winner, tackler, hard grafter. He's kind of had different kind of phases of his career, hasn't he? And then to turn up in the final and get those 4 from play, like he's just a ruthless finisher. And the best point he got, I think, was the counter attack in the first half. When Kerry sucked too many bodies up. I remember looking at it going, we've too many forward here ahead of the ball. We no punch from behind, and we all got sucked ahead of the ball. And next thing, lost it. And Jason Foley and Mannion were almost in a race to the goal. And Mannion puts on the afterburners. It was incredible athleticism and pace. And for all the injuries he's had and everything, against Jason Foley, he won the race and then chipped it with the left straight over. I thought that was a great score.
If Collie Pascal had slipped that a little bit earlier, Mannion was true on goal. And Mannion I'd say Mannion let him know that. I was
thinking goal as well, T. I was thinking goal.
He took a
when they turned it
solo.
over.
He took an extra solo.
But then it was like, that's composure. It was like, the goal chance is gone, clip to score.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's just, lads, what a player. Magic.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. This is episode 35 of season 3 of the Football Pod of Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue. Thanks very much again for everyone for listening in so far this season. The pod is brought to you with thanks to AIB, proud sponsors of the Senior Football Championship. Check out #toughest for more. We had an unbelievable night last Thursday night in Croke Park. That show was just great crack. We had Paul Galvin and Keane O'Sullivan there. We actually barely talked about the match. So if you haven't actually seen it, you can go back and watch it. There's so many stories, loads of great crack. It was really enjoyable. The boys were all in great form. So do go back and watch that. We only have a couple of episodes left this season. So we'll have an All-Star Award show coming up. We're hoping to get a special guest on for an interview. And James, you were grabbing a glass of water or coffee, I think, when I was telling Paddy. The other show, I'm going to ask yourself and Paddy to do a bit of homework and to come back with your propositions to fix Gaelic football, because some people think that the game is in a troubled place. So we're going to be back.
I'm happy with it. So Paddy, you just do yours.
I'll take it from here to you. Jimmy, you head off there. Fix Gaelic football. I need to talk to Larry McCarthy on this.
We are going to be back right after this, talking a little bit more football. Alright, you're very welcome back to episode 35 of the Football Pod of Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue. James, I'm coming to you on this one because Kerry have this ahead of them this winter. John Small tweeted yesterday, Joe Brawley is one of the kindest hearts you'll ever meet, but when it comes to football analysis, and he tweets a picture of an article written in March, the fire is gone and the Dubs don't even seem to care. I'm not going to get into the article or what was in it, but we spoke a little earlier about the power of hunger when it comes to sport, and Kerry are going to have no shortage of that this winter when they look back on that All-Ireland final, when they look back on the fact that they could have buried the Dubs and their last dance and the amount of emotion and celebration we've seen them having this last week. But they also could have been looking at a shot at 3 in a row next year if they had got over the line last week, when it was 11 in injury time and they fell short. How much can that hunger help them over the next few months?
I suppose there's different phases of it. There's an element of grieving, first of all, that needs to be done. And then fellas are going to go back to their club championships, which will be a nice break. But at the same time, there's championship games on this weekend for fellas. So they're into the club scene. They'll try and forget about Kerry, forget about the game, all that, which is hard. And then when that's finished, come October, November, it'll be a case of sitting down and seeing where you can go. But like it's different in this Kerry setup, I think, or in this time, because that Kerry team would probably have disbanded with a win. You're looking at maybe the Stephen O'Briens, the Gainies, the Paul Murphys. I'm guessing as a fan here, as a supporter, I don't know, but it would be nice to do what David Moran did and kind of bow out on a win, back to back, a double. Would they go back? Would be a question. So now Jack has the question mark. Does he keep everyone together and go at it with kind of the same group again, or does he rebuild a new team? So Jack hasn't necessarily through his career rebuilt. He's always kind of taken a team and maybe given an extra little bit to it and moved it on, but he's never actually gone through a transition that might need to be done now. I don't think they're probably at the transition phase, but he's going to have a few difficult conversations with fellas to try and keep them around. So
they also need fresh blood, right? In a sense that
they do. They need fresh
there's a bit
blood.
of depth needed there, right?
Yeah, look, I think that's the main talking point from a Kerry point of view after the game was the case of we don't have the 7 or 8 options or 9 options off the bench. We only have maybe 2 or 3 that are definitely going to impact the game. But Jack likes that. I think he likes to have 18 or 19, a solid unit. But when you get a knock or two, and especially with this, the way the season is of so many games, it was fine when you had Munster semi-final, Munster final, quarter-final, semi-final, final, like 5 games. You'd wrap someone up. I remember Eamon Fitzmaurice tore his hamstring 3 weeks before the final, grade 2, and played and ripped it in the final, but they'd won it already. He came off. But I just think that he needs to maybe add a couple of additions. But that's where the difficult thing is. If a couple of the lads step away, you're looking at 7 or 8 additions rather than 2 or 3 sprinkles, So it's a strange one for Kerry, but definitely that hurt is the main motivating factor when you're getting back in the gym in November or in October. You have something to fight for again. But the grieving process has to happen first, and they're going to be in that phase for a while.
Paddy, that winter of 2014 was probably the one that ye had as a group.
Yeah, it was. It was massive. That was a big part of it, that seeing Kerry win, but also just we were outsmarted, we were outworked by Donegal in that famous semi-final, and that was 100%. We worked. We always work hard in pre-season. It's fucking torturous every season, but there are things that make you get through it a little bit easier, and that the reality of being second best, or in that case we didn't even get to the final, that was a big part of our motivation to try and get back there, get back on top. We felt we were good enough, we felt we the players to do it, we felt we'd underperformed, and that's exactly what Kerry are going to feel like for the last week. They felt they should have won the game, they felt they had opportunities to win the game, they felt they underperformed. So that, like I said, it's one of the most basic motivating factors in sport, is seeing someone else win your title, what you believe is your title. So for Kerry, that I think that's a plus going into 2024, that there's that edge. I felt they lacked that edge all year. All year, there was glimpses of it against Tyrone in that quarter final, and definitely in the second half against Derry. But as a course for the whole season, I thought their National League, we expected it to be pretty hit and miss, and it was. Munster Championship was going to be pretty irrelevant for them, but I just felt I couldn't get away from the Mayo game in Killarney, where a team that is on, that has an edge about them. They don't have a performance like that. Like Dublin had played poorly in games throughout the season, but nothing to the level of, like, Kerry were annihilated by Mayo, and it wasn't necessarily much of a tactical thing. It was like Mayo just running through them. Like, that is a motivation, that's an edge. And I felt that they were a little bit off with that all season. Now, they nearly pulled it out of the bag, but I don't think that would be an excuse to them next season. I expect them, whether it's the same crew or not, and Jack has the same players, whether there's new guys coming in, I agree. I think Kerry do need to bring in some new guys. And look, they have players, of course they do. But it's getting them in and getting them game time to supplement that forward line, but also just depth in the squad, that there's options there. Because it is a new season, it's a new way of games. You're playing 9, 10 championship matches in the course of a couple of months. You need bodies. And
I thought Galvin's point
Kerry were actually
around.
all right though with injuries this year. It wasn't too
Well,
bad.
they'll also cumber. They lost Joe O'Connor, and I actually thought Paul Galvin's point at the roadshow about that middle third sector was actually quite. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Like the amount of depth that Dublin actually had, and he had a tweet up about the A versus B. I'm not sure Kerry ever really had that. Like, we saw glimpses even of the likes of Donald Down O'Sullivan and Darragh Roach and a few other lads getting a chance in the league. They never really got minutes in Championship. I know there's a couple of injuries there. Midfield, they lost a couple of lads, and in defence, Mike Breen was back quite late. He had a big year last year before he got injured, and they were probably short. Breen Bjuglik was never really right, and he had a big semi-final last year against Dublin. I do think that Kerry were short a little bit in that area.
Definitely, and you have to get, like that rugby thing that we always go back to, get to 50 caps, get 20 or 30 appearances, come on as a sub, hear the noise, see everything, see how it works, see how the pressure comes on late in games, be involved in that, and then come the All-Ireland, you're ready. But like, Jack can't be turning around going, I'm not sure who I'm bringing on here. Which is, it's unfair on everyone. It's not. It's just give like that Loud game really was a chance, I think, to start a couple of fellas and see what they're made of in a championship match. Now it turned out to be fairly one-sided, but still you're giving them the experience. But like, he's going to have to go around. He's going to have to start watching those club championship games now this week to get a couple of fellas in.
But Jimmy, I think the reality here, like, Kerry are going to be in, are one of our favourites to win the All-Ireland next year. That even with all, that there's disappointment from Sunday, there's maybe a couple of guys pushing on, there's question marks over depth, Kerry still are going to be one of the favourites to win this thing, and they're going to be right there in 2024. You look around the country and you say, well, who's coming up to eat their lunch? And I'm not saying, I thought Galway underperformed. You expect them to come back. Mayo, at times you're thinking, have they figured something out here under McStay? And then the All Failings come back, but they're going to be in the mix. And then you're looking into the Ulster Championship. Realistically, Derry, can Tyrone sort themselves out? There's a lot of change going to happen in Tyrone. Derry
need a big winter.
They've been impressive, but again, I just feel their ceiling is probably, I think they're maxing out, and it's not at All-Ireland level. So the reality is, without having to change too much, Kerry are still going to be right there as favourites to win the All-Ireland. You look at what's going to happen with Dublin, and no one knows. If you're asking me now, Do I expect the same Dublin crew to be training in January? I'd be surprised. So,
Yeah, but they'll all come back in March.
And the Dubs will break up, definitely.
Do you think they'll break up? Why would they break up?
Because that was the deal.
It's hard to tell.
That was it. Let's win this one, and that's why they had so much of
emotion.
So much, yeah. And that's what
I
wondered for them. If they said,
outside,
right, we'll come back here for 2 more years,
2 or 3 year window.
There's no power in that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, this is fucking it. We're done in July or August, whatever. This is it. Are we doing it or not? And that's where they got the power from.
But if you look at it, say worst case from a Dublin perspective, and everyone leaves, they're all out. That's a massive turnover for Dublin as well, that they need to sort. So straight away, you're looking at 2024, and bear in mind, it's bloody a week after the All-Ireland final.
Predictions, right? Predictions now.
Cork are obviously going to be
watch.
one of the favourites for the whole thing. Cork and Meath
are back.
The favourites. But like the reality, like it's doom and gloom and Kerry, and they accept that. But realistically, they're going to be right there next season. Yeah, they need to make a couple of changes, but they're starting so far ahead of the majority of the pack that Jack O'Connor is a smart coach. He's been around the block. He knows what he'll need to do. And there's players in Kerry. Don't be telling me there's not guys who can score in Kerry. So it's just the league is far more important to Kerry next season than it was this year. We knew that. We called that. The league for Dublin next year is kind of irrelevant. They're in Division 1, so they bloody don't want to get relegated down again. But there'll be changes in Dublin as well. And then you're looking outside of those two. There's question marks over all the other contenders.
There is.
And the reality is the Dubs and Kerry.
Yeah.
They're going to be right there again.
Galway confirmed last week that Joyce is staying on. We don't know what's happening in Derry. Is Kieran Meena going to stay on? Is there going to be a new change there? We don't really know what's happening in Armagh yet. Is Geezer going to stay on for another season, or are they going to throw the toys out of the pram? The clubs have in Tyrone, we don't know what's going to happen. I'd say one thing Jack O'Connor is hoping for this year is that the likes of Ratmore and Fossa and the other clubs don't get the big run. And it's horrible to say it, but I can imagine county managers are thinking that they do not want their clubs getting the runs. Like Sean Kelly last year had a relentless year. Conor Glass, Shane Walsh, David the Cliffords, Paul Murphy. They had Shane Ryan unbelievably long years mentally and physically, and that's just the nature of the club season and the split season at the minute with intercounty football and club football rolling into each other. So before we leave the All-Ireland final, we've a couple of quick things to wrap up on, James. We're going to be late for training, so we're going to get in trouble if we don't wrap this up really quickly.
Are you still playing, lads? At that club seat should just be scrapped. I told you this.
Yeah.
We're going all the way. We're back in action by this weekend.
Good luck
Legion,
this weekend.
baby.
Have you played yet, Tom?
Put all your money on Legion.
We won on Saturday. Yeah, we won our first round. Yeah. Big win.
What you kick?
I kicked the wide. That's all I kicked.
Nice. Good wide. That was great strike.
I kicked it dead.
You were smoked.
But it's as good as a score. You were smoked out there.
I had a different sort of job. I was midfield.
Who smoked you at midfield?
I got smoked in the first half, actually. I was the fault of one of our lads getting a black card, but I did okay in the second half. James, good luck this weekend. Who are you playing?
Curra.
Okay.
Neutral venue. We're in the group of death. Oh, the other two
Likewise.
teams in the group played and this weekend, actually. Great game. Kilcommon and Long
We're
Rangers.
in the group of dead as well.
Hey?
Who's in the other teams in the group?
Kilcommon and Long Rangers, yeah.
Okay. McCarthy's are Kilcommon, are they?
Yeah. Keeley.
Okay. Is he not gone to McCarthy not gone to London?
Yeah, he went to London, yeah. No, he's not. Well, I don't know. Is he coming back? He's not around at the moment.
Is Mike Frank still playing for Long Rangers? No.
He was tagged, all right. No, I don't know. What a player, though. He was playing.
What a player.
Up to early 40s, and
unbelievable.
Serious quality as well. Like
he's still bringing a bag of balls. He still brings a bag of balls into the pitch to go kicking. Like
he would.
One of the great joys in life. Brings a bag of balls down and kicks for half an hour.
Hard bet.
Paddy, there was big news actually last night in Westmeath. Your old foes, Gary Castle, All-Ireland finalists in 2012. Bet Bridget's in the Leinster final in November 11. Relegated to intermediate football in Westmeath.
Jesus.
Did they lose a few bodies, did they?
Don't know, but that's a big one on Westmeath.
Desi Dolan was a massive player for them. I remember that was 2011. Jesus, a long time ago. But for them, yeah, All-Ireland club finalists. Cross McGlenn bet them, didn't they?
Yeah, in 12, Cross.
In 12.
Was it Cross?
Yeah. But they're relegated to Inter. That's the same thing happened here with St. Vincent's and Plunkett's were in the beach.
And Bridget's.
Vinny's.
Did you go down to B?
Bridget's, I think they're in the C championship at this stage. But like Vinny's, All Ireland winners, Conley, Massey Quinn, Ger Brennan, all these guys, they were in the B champions as well. So it's just the cycle of players, and this is the biggest thing. If your underage isn't right and you haven't got that conveyor belt coming through,
Do you have to win an intermediate to get back up? Or is it like 2 finals?
There's intermediate and then there's B championship. So you have to win a B championship to get back into the A championship. So
you have to win it, yeah.
You have to win it. Or the 2 finalists. 2 finalists in the B championship get promoted. So Coola were in the B championship. They Mick Fitzsimons, Conor O'Callaghan, they won that. They got promoted. Vincent's won it last year, so they're back up. Massey Quinn was still doing the business. Bit of Mike Frank Russell there.
Yeah.
Kicking
What age is
spinners.
Massey now?
I think he's late 50s, I think. 58, 59.
What a
Massey,
player, no
listen, I'm
fairness.
sorry, Massey. I apologise. I'm only winding you up. Massey's probably 40.
Massey Quinn,
But
the
he
second,
was brilliant.
the second
Such
most
a
influential
classy
man
player.
in Dublin football, I would say, Massey Quinn. He's up there.
Every
So,
time he's
club
on TG
scene-
Carr, he's doing the business as well. He's never playing poorly, like.
No,
Yeah, he's
kicking
class.
spinners and
Yeah.
scoring goals. A poacher. What a man. But a busy couple of months ahead. I watched the club championship with close eye.
You will. You absolutely will.
I will, yeah.
There was a couple of there was a couple other bits of news. Matty Donnelly suffered a shocking injury at the weekend.
Yeah, sounds bad. Sounds like a bad one.
Looks like he could be out for the year, and Ethan Rafferty as well last week for Grange.
Both
really
leg
bad injury.
breaks. Is that like
It
collisions or
sounds
their
like
legs get cut? I don't want to say it, but they sound like bad ones. They only cruciate injury or something like that. But leg breaks is
Donnelly did it in the Kilmacud Sevens, and Rafferty did it in the league game
the
for the Grange.
sevens. Oh,
Yeah, so
Is
Legs
cruciate
are
worse, though? Cruciate's worse than leg break, I'd say, is it?
if you get a bad leg break, it could be hard to heal. I don't know. Hopefully,
Yeah.
thoughts
fingers crossed for
thoughts
two
with the
boys.
lads.
Alright,
Best luck with
We're
recovery,
alright
but
when they get
that's a
back.
shocker. And best luck to everyone in their club action over the next
Enjoy
couple of
it,
weeks.
lads. Enjoy the club stuff now.
We'll be back next Monday with our All-Star show. You'll be glad to know. We'll be giving out our awards.
This is going to break the internet. Our all-star selections.
We
They're not
kind
gonna go
of
down well.
we've got a hint of where you boys are leaning for your footballer of the year, but we will be deciding the official football pod footballer of the year next week.
How
So
are we deciding this? Because
Well,
we
we're gonna have-
do not agree on this.
we're gonna have 3 judges in the media, right? Me, you, and James, and then we're gonna open it up to public vote, and that's how we're gonna do it.
I don't think
So
public vote.
there's going to be a mix. There's going to be a mix.
We can't
There's
put our
gonna be a
name for that
mix.
if it's public vote.
No, there's going to be a mix.
No.
I've a weighted system here. So the public get 25%, we get 25%, and so on and so forth. And that's how it's going.
Where's the other 50?
This is a farce. This is a stitch up already.
Right. That's how we're doing it at the moment. I'll try and if I think of another
So
way.
next week is the all-star show. So we have a week to pick our all-star team.
All-Star team, yeah. And a couple of awards are going to give out as well next week. So
No bullshit now, Jimmy.
done
Don't be
class
coming in
reads.
with 10 Kerry lads. Like.
No, I don't. I picked it already. I've
Oh, did you?
Ford
Oi.
Derry.
don't give
You
it
have
away.
your team already.
We've 3 more shows to get through. Don't give it away.
We'll roll these all into one super episode here and knock it on the head for the year.
Great to catch up, boys, and good work this week. And remember, no tweeting after midnight.
No, the phone is dead. Lock it away, baby.
See you, lads. Be good.
boys.
Thanks.
Enjoy the bank holiday, boys. Chat to you next week. Bye bye.